done, Blazkowicz. You keep the lookout. I need to go to the west. Oh, shite!
Wolfenstein: The New Order is the next installment for Wolfenstein from Machine Games. It has quick gunplay and often is over the top. It turns out to be surprisingly grounded in a believable alternate history. Gameplay is fun, very fun in fact. However, it does get slightly repetitive as the game continues further. It mainly consists of what we have come to expect from Wolfenstein games. You just shoot a bunch of Nazis. Even though slightly repetitive, I found the gameplay to be satisfying. I love taking what is most obviously a rendition of the Nazis' infamous idea of a wonder weapon, in this game called the Tesla gun, and shooting it at a Nazi and watching him simply just explode. Aside from the regular gunplay, Wolfenstein has some interesting sequences of gameplay that stand apart from the rest of the game. I'm referring to those instances where they add verticality to the gunfights, adding a cool breakup from the shoot 'em up and stealth elements of most of the game. As just mentioned, there are also options for the player to use stealth in order to accomplish some tasks. They promote this by adding takedowns and throwing knives, as well as a silencer attachment for your pistol. While they do offer routes for the stealth player to take, it becomes not viable in many instances where you are combated by larger enemies and mechanical Nazis where you must simply just focus as much firepower on them as possible. I would like to make a point as well that I had a much better time just going into rooms guns blazing in this game. There's also the option for dual wielding in the New Order. I found it in most cases to not be worthwhile. The only time I employed dual wielding was with the shotguns when I just wanted to clear a room, so I would suggest if you're going to dual wield, use the shotguns. It's just plain stupid. Even though dual wielding leads to tons of wasted ammo, there is not a scarcity of it in the game. There is a ridiculous amount of ammunition to collect, and the player has to press the collect button every time there is ammo to collect, instead of just simply walking over it to collect it. I found myself just smashing the collect button in areas because I knew there was ammo everywhere. This is a minor complaint, but still something that slightly took me out of the immersion. Wolfenstein utilizes a unique skill system where the player is not spending points or experience, but rather must accomplish tasks within the game in order to progress it further along the skill tree. I found the system intuitive, and it made me use the good variety of weapons I found in the game. If you have played Wolfenstein games in the past, you know that BJ Blazkowicz has always been just a big and muscular meathead. Not anymore. There is a surprising amount of depth in his character that just builds further into the game. BJ is not the only character with depth. All characters in this game were developed and even very complex. Wolfenstein is so well written that I was attached and invested in almost every character immediately after dialogue with them or a brief flashback. I found it astonishing that I was so quickly attached to the game's characters, in some instances in under a minute. The complexity of characters is only furthered by the superb voice acting that matched each character impeccably.
We get the job done.
The world the characters find themselves in is also equally as well developed. Yes, it takes place after World War II, but this time the Nazis won. Many things in the game seemed ludicrous at first, whether it be large super Nazis or a huge machined London monitor. If you learned about the Nazis from history class, then you know they were always exploring new and ridiculous technologies, whether it be giant mechs, crazy science experiments, or even high-tech bases on the moon. So after seeing many things the Nazis were using throughout the game, I felt as if it were plausible, if they actually did win the war. I would like to give those playing on PlayStation 4 a quick warning. There have been isolated instances where players have lost game saves and could not load them from the cloud. This happened to me as soon as the credits started rolling for the game. Players should be aware that this may happen. That being said, this issue did not influence my final scoring of the game. Wolfenstein is a surprisingly deep and grounded first-person shooter that contrasts itself well from its over-the-top and slightly repetitive gameplay. It is well written and just plain entertaining. The world is well developed and it never felt as if I were in the same area twice. Some aspects of the game are cumbersome and could probably do without them. Nonetheless, I believe most gamers that play this game will be pleasantly surprised. This is not a title that should be skipped over. Wolfenstein: The New Order gets an 8.2 out of 10.